welcome everybody to our second keynote of the day. I hope that everybody has got an opportunity to take a little break before joining us for what's going to be just a continuation of this powerful energy that we are experiencing today during the summit. So without any further ado, here you have Turquoise, LeJeune, Parker.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. It is really great to be here with y'all. I am a racial and social justice teacher. I live in Durham, North Carolina. I am the media coordinator. That's my Durham Public Schools title, but my self-given title is racial and social justice teacher because that's the best way that I can describe the position that I'm in and that I love. So I am going to start by asking you all in the chat. I always, it's not What's Up Wednesday, but in my classroom on What's Up Wednesday, that's the day that we talk about ourselves every day, but I want to share some tips and things that I do in my classroom as I go. And one of the things that we do on What's Up Wednesday in my class is we just talk, like what's bringing you here. So in the chat, if you will, put your name, your state, and what brings you to this session today. And I won't read them because I want to be good stewards of our time, but it will be great for us to build community and be able to see who all's in the room for all of us. So not just for me, not just for you, but for all of us. And that way we'll be able to just kind of see. It'll give us a little feel as if we're in the same room. And while you're doing that, I'm going to further introduce myself. So as I said, my name is Turquoise LeJeune Parker. I am a graduate of the greatest historically Black college and university in all of the land, the very prestigious North Carolina Central University. And I am a third generation teacher, and I'm also just third generation HBCU grad. My grandmother is the HBCU legacy, the beginning of our HBCU legacy in my family. She graduated from Morris College, and then my mother graduated from Voorhees College. My aunt graduated from my alma mater's arch rival in Greensboro, North Carolina. And then my sister graduated from Barber Scotia, and I graduated from North Carolina Central University, which is where I met my wonderful, amazing, tall, sexy Black husband man. And we met in freshman orientation. We were in the band together, and we just have been in love for we've been married for almost 8 years, and we are both educators. He's the music teacher at his school, and we're both just really racial and social justice humans at our heart, advocates at our heart. It's really what we both have always done, even when we didn't really know that's what we were actually doing. And I also believe that it's important to be transparent. And so one of the things I always start with and always share when I'm getting ready to talk to people is about my professors. These are my babies. If you follow me on social media, or if you start following me after this, there are a few things that you will learn about me. And that's that I love my union, I love my husband, I love my babies, and I love my alma mater. And so I don't call them students, I call them Mrs. Parker's professors, because they are the very best part of me. And I am so honored to be able to share with other people all across the world because of all the things that they've taught me, and they've helped me to grow and learn. And I'm just so grateful for them. So I always make sure I share about them. One of the things that makes them really proud is the advocacy work, the union organizing that I do. So in 2013, North Carolina, we elected a really horrible governor. Pat McCrory was just an incredibly disgusting governor. He was injured in the Art Pope machine. And if you don't know who Art Pope is, I definitely don't want you to celebrate him, but you can definitely learn about how they are not good for our public schools. So Pat McCrory was our governor. He was tearing down public education from what Governor Jim Hunt and Purdue had done and worked so hard to build. And so we educators said enough is enough. So he was up for re-election. So in 2016, we got out of school and our union organized a march from Durham to Raleigh. And in that march, that's 23 and a half miles. And we had a plan to meet with him, with our governor. And we had an appointment with him. His folks knew we were coming. And as soon as we got there, they closed the doors on us. And so we knocked on all the doors and they didn't answer. So we called and they didn't answer. And so we stood in the middle of the street. And as you can see here, the police are like, please, we'd appreciate you guys moving. We don't want to arrest teachers. The thing that some people say all the time is, my insert connection here was a teacher. So I love you all, but please don't. But we knew what we were doing. We needed to make sure that Pat McCrory did not become the governor for a second term. And so we had to take massive, noticeable action. So the police asked us to move and we sat down and then we got arrested. And this was on our 3rd wedding anniversary. So when I say my husband and I are racial and social justice beings at our core, and the professors were so proud. And I will never forget in this moment, one of my union brothers was on the street, on the sidewalk when we were in this picture where I'm walking away. And all I could hear, I was really nervous, very scared, but because I'm a Black woman, right, in the care of police. And my union brother was like, the professors would be so proud of you right now. And I heard that, and I don't know how I heard that out of all of the loudness that was happening, because there was so much happening in that moment. But out of all the loudness that I heard in that moment, I heard that come through very clear. And it encouraged me that I wasn't doing anything wrong, that I was actually doing the right thing, and I wasn't by myself. I was in this together. In our union, we have a thing we say, we're in this together. And I knew that I wasn't alone. Furthermore, I was there, I had the protection, of my husband. He was right there, right? But I was also really nervous. And you wouldn't be able to tell because as I showed you a couple of slides back, my husband and I were in the marching band. So I was a dance and flag girl. So being in front of people and smiling and stuff like that was normal to me. So when it came time to get arrested, and that mugshot came, I was like proud. I knew I wasn't doing anything wrong. And I knew that this was going to change the trajectory of North Carolina's public schools for the good. And it was not something that I'm ashamed of at all, but I do like to make sure I'm transparent and let people know that, because it's not something that I want people to think I'm hiding. And so one of the things we do in our union is we always begin by acknowledging native lands. And this is one of our native land acknowledgement that we use in the NEA. And we use this at the forefront of every union meeting. And I do this in my classroom. And I encourage you to do that, because we are indeed obligated to remind folks that we are living on stolen land. So it reads, we begin acknowledging that we meet on traditional land served by the Catawba people. We honor America's first people and all elders, past, present, and emerging, and we call on to learn and share what we learn about tribal history, culture, and contributions that have been suppressed in telling the story of America. And I will make sure that I get the links to you where you can go and find out exactly what native lands are specific to where you are. And in this moment of rethinking and reimagining the ways that we see and do and think, we have to make sure that we are inclusive of honoring our native lands and being specific, and not just us knowing it, but we're called upon, as it says here, to share that and to honor that. Always want to make sure that we are uplifting Black lives, because we know that, as my slides are called, as my presentation It's called Nobody's Free Until Everybody's Free. And there is no way that we can forget about these horrible happenings in our world. And we must always remember to say her name, that we must always fight for justice, and that we must always remember that we're running with Maud. It's not a destination, it's a journey. We don't ever arrive and we're done, right? Because we have to remember that if it can happen to these folks, it can happen to all of us, and our humanities are tied together. We are in this virtual space because of a pandemic, and we have to make sure that we honor our folks who are living and breathing the opportunity to catch this virus, because that's their job and that's their livelihood. And these are the folks who are not even barely getting paid some aren't getting paid $15 an hour. So we want to make sure that we honor those folks and appreciate them for the sacrifices that they're making and the work that we're doing right now. Being in this session, we're called to organize ourselves and make sure that folks who are our essential workers who we depend on, we have to make sure that we organize so that their living conditions are much better, and they're not as they are right now. So we want to honor them, that we're even able to sit in the privilege we have right now to be in a space where we can sit and watch a presentation and not be sacrificing our lives. And we want to always just want to remember that these folks who are in these positions were once in our classrooms, right? And we owe it to them to make sure that we are uplifting continuously. Now, in our union, we believe that community norms and agreements are important. And in my classroom, this is the same way. We believe that community norms, agreements, and culture are very important for how we move and live and how we produce, right? So in this session, we're gonna step up, step back. Step up if you're someone who is like, I don't know, I don't really have anything to share. We want you to feel empowered to step up in the chat. If you're someone who's always talking and you talk extended amounts of time, we want to encourage you to step back and empower other folks to step into and lean into this moment of learning that we're doing together. Our second norm that we're going to have in this session is we're in this together. We came into this webinar, the Zoom together, and we want to leave in that same space. Respect facilitation and time limits. We want to honor the team from EduColor who's worked really hard to put this together, and all the presenters and keynotes that are going to be that came before and will come after this one. And we want to make sure that we encourage them and extend grace, because living in a virtual world is really hard, but we're really proud of every one of us who are doing it and doing it well. And then apologies are reserved for harm. One of the ways that racism and sexism shows up in our world is we feel like we need to qualify everything we have to say, or if we say a thing, we need to be like, well, after we say it, we need to be like, well, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have said that. You don't need to apologize for who you are or what you have to share or a mistake that you made, unless the mistake is harmful to other people. But we want you to feel, empowered to share. So, seeing community norm number 1 about stepping up and stepping back. Today we have a few remixed values. I call them remixed because these are things that we believe in the Parker's Professors Learning Community. And this is something that I will talk a little bit about later, but right now in this session, we're going to believe that we have students at the center. We have collective care. We believe in collective care. So we're checking in on each other. We fight to win. We believe in celebration, because being an educator is the hardest, most important job in the world, and we ought to celebrate ourselves, especially every day, not just in a pandemic, but teaching, educating is hard and it's meaningful and it's necessary, but we got to do it. And we got to do that with a commitment to racial and social justice. And again, you see celebration because we don't do enough of that. We value collective care and self-interest, growing and organizing leadership. Again, collective self-interest a culture of continuous learning, because it's not a journey. It's not, it's not a destination. It's a journey. We believe definitely in accountability and owning mistakes. As I said earlier, apologies are reserved for harm. And if you do cause harm, it's indeed important to own that. My bad, I'm sorry. So what will our time together look like? So done welcome, introductions, we've honored our people. We just went over the community norms and values, going over the agenda review and goals. And in a second, we're going to do consent, where we don't need to assume that people agree with the rules and the goals. So we always like to make sure we get consent from people. We don't ever want to assume that they feel or agree. And we're going to do a couple polls, share some resources, culture building, how do we teach this, community building, we're going to do a little Q&A, closing, / evaluation, because I'd appreciate your feedback. And then I'm going to share my contact information so we can stay connected. So the goals of this session is for everybody to realize that your liberation is bound up with mine. And that's the name of the session, nobody's free until everybody's free. And how we connect a racial and social justice pedagogy, how that connection can be had in instruction, which builds family and community engagement, because we're doing things that people don't normally talk about or want to talk about. And so many families have had varying school experiences and life experiences that they might see a racial and social justice pedagogy in the classroom and not sure how to handle it, but engagement is what is the goal, right? We want to make sure that we have stakeholders. And speaking to stakeholders, the next one, how white supremacy impacts the school experience of every stakeholder. Build and or amplify students and colleagues' awareness of HBCUs, because if you follow me for any length of time, you know how much I love historically Black colleges, in particular mine. And then talking about how public education is a tool for Black liberation and growing organizers, because I believe that that is the work that we are all called to do and that we have access to in our classrooms, is the ability to build organizers. And it's so dope that we have that access. So our community agrees to all those things. And though I cannot, I'm gonna stop sharing for just a moment so that I can look in the chat. And if you agree with those, if you will, please put like a agree or a thumbs up in the chat so that we can, awesome, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. This is really important because we don't ever wanna assume that people are in agreement with, yep, thank you for the yes, and thank you. Yes, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for honoring our voices. Awesome. All right, so I'm gonna go back and keep going. All right, we have, oops, I'm sorry about that. So we're gonna do a poll. We're gonna do two polls, actually. The first poll that we're gonna do is, when did you have your first Black teacher? Was that elementary school, middle school, high school, college, or not yet? When did you have your first Black teacher? When did you have your first Black teacher? So give everybody a few more seconds to check which box or which little bubble. It's a bubble. And then we will close that poll in about 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, we're gonna close that poll and check out the results, hopefully. Okay, wow, this is really intriguing. So as we can all see, a lot of folks had their first Black teacher in this crew in elementary school, middle school, high school. Okay, that's what's up. I fall in that college range. I had my first Black teacher when I became a student at North Carolina Central, and I was so hyped because I had never seen a Black or brown person in the classroom teacher position. So I was like, whoa, this is like really amazing to me. And I wanted to know everything that these teachers had to share with me. And I wanted to learn about, I wanted to feel empowered as a Black woman, because at this point, when I had my first teacher, I was in college, right? So I'm really like, I'm young. I'm still young, hair flip. But I was so impressionable. And I had a teacher at my HBCU who I felt, in retrospect and in that moment, I felt saying and doing a lot of oppressive things. And so that leads us to our next poll. Our next poll: when did you have your first anti-racist teacher? When did you have your first anti-racist teacher? Elementary, middle, high, college, or not yet? So we're gonna give you about 30 seconds to finish filling that one out. And this one, a lot of people are, I've seen a lot of, in the state of Virginia, I want to say it was about a year or two ago, maybe it was a year ago, the Virginia Education Association, the NEA affiliate there, shared that they were partnering with their elected officials to limit the testing that's required for teachers to get into the classroom, because it was a barrier for Black and brown educators. And that made me think about anti-racist teachers. So let's see what the poll says. Let's close the poll, and there we go. Very different results, y'all. Crazy. Like that's crazy how different the results are. Because when you think about it, representation indeed matters, but sometimes we are in the engine of our own oppression, and we don't even know it. So sometimes I'm like, yes, we need more Black and brown educators in our schools, but I personally have seen so many Black and brown educators who have caused so much harm that I've seen so many anti-racist teachers, and those anti-racist teachers have been white, they've been Black, they've been brown, and a lot of me wants to believe that I would rather have an anti-racist teacher than to just have someone who is Black and they're not anti-racist, they're not liberated, because you can cause just as much harm as a white racist teacher. So thank y'all so much for engaging with the polls. That was really good. And I encourage you to ask that question to people you know. So we are gonna watch the way that the professors and I build community in a few minutes. But before we watch that, earlier you saw that I talked about agreement norms and how those are important for how we care for each other, how we are gonna spend our time together, how productive we're gonna be. Also, these are my babies in that picture. These are the professors with their cute selves. These babies are headed to 7th grade, which is crazy. But we want to make sure that we ground the purpose of our work and we set the tone for how things are going to work in this space that we are in, because we are spending a lot of time together, and we want kids to understand that this is not about you, this is about us. We want to disassemble or dismantle that concept that we have of individualism. We want to reject individualism, and we want to lay out and teach and model what collective work and collective care and collective responsibility and collective accountability, collective celebration. We want to lay out collectivism as much as we can. And that, again, collective ownership, co-creation. So the video that we're going to watch, this was created by me and the professors. We did this together. And this is the way that we ground our community in each day, each and every day. Now this past school year was the first year that I was a specials teacher in the, like how kids go to art, music, PE. They came to the library. This was the first year, and it was really tough because you only have 45 minutes and you're like, I'm trying to squeeze everything in there. But I really wanted to make sure that we have culture and build community. So this video that we're gonna watch is the professors and
you and you and you and you and you and you and you and you and you and you. All right, Miss Tia, we're ready for you. Okay.
And as you can see, this
I
is
like the way I see
Professor
Angel
Liz.
already. He looks ready.
Today is Monday, November 7th, 2016. The abbreviated date is 11-7-16. Our schedule is breakfast, morning work, already get it, morning meeting, doing it now, daily 5, then math, then lunch, then science, then specials, then recess, then finally dismissal. What type of practice?
Wait, the Angels are leaving.
What type of practice? Practice makes perfect. What do you always do?
Set your game up.
What are you?
A leader.
What do you never do?
Give up.
Who do you challenge?
Myself.
What do you represent?
My family and my friends.
Why is school important?
To get a good education.
Your life
It's my goal.
How do you treat people?
The way I want to be treated.
What do you do at all times?
Work hard.
When you start something,
Finish it.
How do you do things?
The right way.
Who do you love?
My family and my friends.
Who are we?
Kings and queens.
1, 2, 3.
I'm creative. I'm gifted. I'm excited about my future. I'm a leader. I'm a scholar. I'm an average and worthy. I'm greatest. And greatness follows me and what I know. I take my education seriously because it is the most powerful weapon I have. My education will change my world. No one will stop me from achieving my goals. I am awesome. I'm going to graduate from high
I
school
wanted to
in
pause.
2026.
I want to pause right here because I want y'all to see that I'm over there because at my school, we don't have teacher assistants. Well, we do, but we only have like 5. So it's not enough for everybody to have their own, shade to the General Assembly in North Carolina. But you see, I'm over there talking, having to handle something, and they're still going because they have this is a collective responsibility. Our classroom is not Mrs. Parker is the only leader. We are all leaders. We're all responsible for this.
I am going to graduate from NCCU. I am their future and I am growing.
So those are my babies. Those are the professors. And just got a little emotional thinking about them. Thank y'all for letting me have a moment. I miss them a lot. Ooh. Thank you guys for letting me have a moment. I miss them so much, and I really love. That was hard. All right, I'm good. And so those kids are amazing. As you can see, that was from 2016, and we built that together. So I had, and all the chart paper up on the walls, and we talked about how we want to treat each other. What do you need to hear when the moment is getting hard? What do you need to do when the work is really challenging you? Or what do you need to hear when you feeling hyped, like you feeling gassed up? Shout out to 2 of my homies who are on this Zoom right now who was gassing me up earlier today. What do you need to hear? And so we built that, and we do that every single day in our classroom. Every day, doesn't fail. And we do not, and on the first day of school is usually when I lead it, just because they're all kind of and then after a while they are arguing over who's going to lead. And again, we're building organizers, we're building leaders. Now, we do that because I want them to see that I love, Mrs. Parker loves being Black. I love it. And I want you to feel proud and powerful in who you are and expressing that and sharing that. And don't be ashamed of who you are. In that, this year, we talked a lot about a different world. If you know me, you know that this is my jam. Like I want them to see what it looks like to feel and be in different ways. One of the things we say a lot in the world is Black people are not a monolith, right? Black people are not a monolith. And we watch this show all the time. Of course, we have conversations while we're going through it, but also I believe that I have to make sure that I teach every child, every professor, that you are either going to go to North Carolina Central University in Durham, or you're going to North Carolina Central University in Durham. There are no other options. I mean, I might think about another HBCU, maybe, but I also want them to see how diverse Blackness is, how diverse brownness is, how diverse this world is, and that you can be proud of who you are. And we don't do that in just a couple of ways. We do that in a lot of ways. And I love to say that this is my belief that literacy is liberation. And I love for them to see themselves in literature. And I love for them to not just see themselves in it, but build literature themselves. And in that, you think about how many things you can give kids through literature. Like, it's unlimited. I mean, they can see and build. And this baby right here, the 1, 2, and 3, not this past year, but the year before that, they believe so strongly in literacy's liberation that they started writing a book series called The Little Fish. And they had like a partnership with one of the car dealerships here, another partnership from our community to sponsor their book. And they became published authors, and it was incredibly amazing how free they became, and how then I didn't even have to worry about behavior, anything like that, because they couldn't wait to get to my classroom to do all the things, because they were like, I don't know what this lady might do. It was incredibly amazing. And literacy is liberation also applies to that. We don't need to just share Blackness and brownness in a struggle manner. Blackness and brownness is beautiful, it's hard, it's amazing, it's a struggle, it's so diverse. They were like, but don't you think, Ms. Parker, you love history, don't you think we should be talking about history in this book? And I was like, no, we need to show that Blackness is extraordinary in all the ways, and that Black people can write about books about a fish, and it's okay, because guess what? We can do that. And then boom, they just got started. Another way that we want to empower our kids is through the processes of the world and the way that the world works. So in my classroom, this is from my classroom this year. This is on the wall in every classroom that I've taught in ever. And this coming school year is going to be year 10 for me. This is our governor, our mayor, our superintendent, our school board chair, school board members, city council, our county commissioners, and then our folks who go to the General Assembly in Raleigh, and folks who go to DC on our behalf, because they know, and the professors know who every person on this wall is by name. And when one of our county commissioners or our school board chair saw me at a meeting and said, man, I saw one of them professors at the store, and they said, excuse me, Mr. Mike Lee, school board chair of the Durham Board of Education, why did you da da da? And he said he was just like, you got to be Turquoise Parker student. You just got to be, because it's not about me. I want them to understand the whole system. And you also can empower them to be organizers. I'm just trying to drop those organizing things. And I also want them to know who these people are, and that these folks are responsible for making sure that everybody, the collective, this is a collective. It's not just me, it's not just you, it's all of us. Another thing we do that I think empower the boys that wrote the book about the little fish is we talk about an author of color each and every day. And there is no short list of authors of color. there is a growing list as more and more folks of color are being empowered to write and share their experiences. And when Representative John Lewis passed, I was, talking to one of my professor's grandmother, and she said, Maurice remembers learning about him in your class and his book about, was it about the chickens? And I was so proud. Like, that's what's up. Like, that stuff is really meaningful to kids. Now, if we were in person, we would be getting up right now to do this activity called the Culture Line. And this is an activity that I do also with the professors. So what the Culture Line looks like, and this is one of my favorites too, ain't you cute? So the Culture Line is a bunch of questions that say, what does sitting down for dinner look like in your family? And it looks like a Soul Train line. And you have you have two lines. One line is going to be the line that moves the most. One side is going to stay still. And when the question comes on the screen, you talk to the person that's directly in front of you. When the music comes on, the person dances down, goes to the end of their line, the whole line moves down, and then the next question pops up, and the next question is like, who did you play with and where did you play? When you go grocery shopping, do you get to ask or do you get to just be quiet? And there's lots of questions that make you think about the different ways that people interact with their families, interact with the world. It's a really amazing activity, and it's one that I usually do on the first day of school, and the kids love it so much that we end up doing it like all the time. And I think they just like dancing, and I don't mind either. The other conversation that the next thing we're going to look at is a couple of resources. Now, you might have already heard a couple of these, but I just want to go ahead and share. And side note, but not really side note, every time I do this presentation or do a presentation, and I share resources, EduColor is always one of the resources that I share. And so when I got this invitation, I was like, me? Oh my gosh, like what? I was tripping. I was so hyped. Like, this is crazy. How dope. Like, these people that I put in presentations all the time inviting me, like, what? Dope. So thank you, EduColor, for having me. I really am honored and appreciative of all the work that you all do. Other resources that we want to share is Rethinking Schools. Incredibly amazing resource. The planner that I always use every year is this one right here. It is called Planning to Change the World, a plan book for teachers, and it is incredibly amazing on each day. Now, I know folks love their really cute planners, and I do too, but I love to be always thinking. I'm an eternal learner, and this planner has on each day, there's a different holiday, the birthday of someone different. At the back, they have the resources by theme, and they have the resources by month. And then at the back, they have these really cute awards, the Say It Loud, Say It Proud award. It's just an incredible resource. Zen Education Project, incredibly free resource. If you did not get on their People's Historians online sessions they did towards the end of when we all were virtual for the end of the school year this past year, you need to go watch them on YouTube. They're incredible. Junior Achievement is a financial literacy program that's very free, and it's community leaders coming into your school to teach Junior Achievement. And the way that I do it is with a very anti-racist, racial and social justice lens. And I always partner with the person who is coming in, and I'm always vetting them to make sure. Putting the movement back into civil rights teaching is, you can get that from Teaching for Change. Teaching for Black Lives is also from Rethinking Schools. The other part of this is talking about the NEA. The NEA is in a moment of choice. We all are in a moment of choice right now, and we have a special responsibility to undermine racism and any form of injustice in every aspect of our school building. So if you are on here and you're not a member of the NEA, I need you to become a member of the NEA, and I need you to get active in the NEA. We are in this moment, we know we have a really important election coming up. Your local union needs your support to make sure that we are electing pro-public education candidates, because we have a responsibility in North Carolina to flip the General Assembly to get the supermajority, and we have to make sure we do that, because there is a thing in our world where we love to point the finger at people who are in the school district for the problems that's happening. When we forget to point the finger at our General Assemblies, at our government. They are to be held responsible. And we want to make sure that we always, always, always think about distributive leadership. If the union isn't doing what you want it to do, what are you doing to make it do the thing that you want it to do? I'm hopefully empowering you to get active and to be a part of an anti-racist collective. Stop, I keep telling people, stop starting your own thing and build in a collective, because we have to unite so that we can build one strong blow and take this racist system out, because we are all responsible. This is a collective responsibility. This is one of my favorites from Fannie Lou Hamer. The question for Black people is not when is the white man going to give us our rights, or when is he going to give us good education for our children, or when is he going to give us jobs. If a white man gives you anything, remember, when he gets ready, he will take it right back. We have to take for ourselves. This is something that is so important to me. You cannot wait. We have to make sure that we are the ones that are changing this. We control the narrative. We lead, we organize, we unite. And these things that I place here are things that I encourage folks to rethink and not normalize these things. Standardized testing is not normal, it's racist. African-American vernacular English is definitely something that we need to empower folks to realize. Again, I feel very strong about standardized testing. Behavior systems, positive behavior intervention system, all the different variations of it. Dewey Decimal System, incredibly racist. GPAs, super racist. Thinking about the redistribution of power. One of my sister girls, Tanisha, says, and I think about what she said, when you get a position, you automatically need to think about, how can I redistribute that power? It's not enough for you to know about it, but to share that knowledge with other people. It's not enough for you to know about it and for you to have a position, but you have to share that with other people. Again, it's not enough for you to know a thing and not share that with other people. That is why the world is, one of the reasons why the world is the way it is, because we do not think about the other people in this world. We think we have to speak for everybody. And if you're a leader who keeps everything to yourself, then you're not really a leader. One of the things that we did in our local is last spring, we got our school board to pass a Black Lives Matter at School Week of Action resolution, so that in 2020, we could do a Black Lives Matter at School Week. And I'm so proud of how wonderful that went off. And if you want information about doing this, you can definitely holler at me. I'm definitely down to help. I'm gonna share my contact information at the end. Also, the Black Lives Matter at School Week of Action folks have an incredibly amazing Google Drive that I encourage you to check out. Always want to talk about intent versus impact, what you meant versus what actually happened. We have to make sure that we think about that in everything that we do. In our world, we have in our world, we have a thing about names that we don't really honor enough. And this is one of the projects that I do with the professors to amplify their ownership of who they are and being proud of who they are. So this video is one that
Whenever someone asks me the meaning of my name, I usually never have an answer. I remember looking for it once in a shopping mall kiosk where the meanings of names are engraved into keepsakes, thinking all the while the chances of me finding mine would be like the odds of winning the sweepstakes. Tired of people mispronouncing it, I shortened it to Khan, but they still got it wrong. Yep, confusing me with the lady who once sang that song, "Tell me something good," and tell them something I feel I should, so I correct them. It's pronounced Sha, Khan, Dri, No silent letters, no accents, preferably pronounced with the drawl of a southern accent. I remember there once was a day when I wish my mother would have stuck to something simple and pretty and majestic like Tiffany or maybe even Alexis, but my fate was sealed by signatures on my birth certificate, granting me the right to forever bear the shame of having been given a ghetto-ass name. So this here poem is for all the little black girls with big names, for the Shahs and Ishas, the Annas and Iquas who are told never to write their names on applications, because we live in a nation where your name can tell someone your race or even your social status, because they think only dumb ghetto folk overuse the alphabet. They chalk it up to illiteracy, never creativity or maybe even history, and I wonder if those who assume would ever stop to think that maybe transatlantic submerged native tongues have re-emerged in the form of ghetto monikers, like my little cousin whose name is Tanisha, sounds a lot like Tinashe, a name from the Shona tribe meaning God is with us, or my friend Lakeisha, whose name sounds a lot like the Bantu name Wakisa, or maybe like me. My mother knew that I would be a fighter, so she named me Shakandria, which sounds a lot like Shaka, the great Zulu warrior. See, this here poem is for every daughter who ever became a professional only to shorten her name to a letter and a period just so phone calls could be returned or higher pay earned, because we all know don't nobody want an Isha or an equal to operate on them. But you see, a book can't be judged by its cover nor its title, and the story beneath your name can't be contained beneath the tide. So sisters, let them rise and take the rightful places on your applications and business cards, desk placards and uniforms, until one day ghetto-ass names become the norm. But for right now, we're special, you see. And there ain't another girl in the world with a name like you or me. So go forth and rep proudly for all the ghetto name girls. And if someone happens to mispronounce your name, make sure you give the neck a swirl, look them dead in the eye and correct them. It's pronounced Shakandria. Say it right or don't say it at all.
I love that poem, and that girl gets me hyped every time. These are little turquoises on the screen. This is little turquoise, and I hated everything about who I was for a very long time because of the way that whiteness permeates our world. And I know that that's not unique to me. That's a problem that a lot of us who experience, who are Black and brown, and we have to make sure that we don't let that continue. And so one of the things that we do in the professors learning community is we do a project where they have to talk to their families about why their name is why their family chose their name. And it's a project that gets the whole family engaged. Where's your family? Like, where did they think of the name? Why? And it's just an incredible project, y'all. Now, I know I don't have a lot of time left and so much to share, but I do want to, these are just a couple of things that we did. We do HBC week in my classroom every year. This week we did compare and contrast. We looked at The Wiz and The Wizard of Oz, and we talked about the anti-racist, the racist, the nuances in there. Definitely realizing that co-conspiratorship is what we want. Ally is really safe, and we don't need allies, we need co-conspirators. We talk a lot about Black Wall Street and gentrification and how to build Black and brown wealth. And so this right here was, we did a STEAM project, a STEAM activity, a STEAM day with Kwanzaa principles after we had talked about gentrification and Black Wall Street. And it was really incredibly amazing. And I always say solidarity has an expiration date, and that's that on that. Like, you got to make sure that you are in this thing or you're not. I believe that we have to make sure that we do this work in every part of our life. You cannot be anti-racist just in your classroom. You need to be, you need to be anti-racist in your life. What are you buying from as many Black and brown places as possible? Who are you spending time with? Who are you following on social media? Who are you listening to? It's not a compartmentalized thing. This needs to be who you are in every space that you're in. And I believe strongly that there are Black people in leadership and there are Black leaders. Black people in leadership believe that I am the first such and such to graduate from such and such, and you keep that to yourself. But you have to believe that you are a leader, a Black and brown leader, and Black and brown leaders share, distributive leadership, like my homegirl Tanisha says, when I get a position of power, how can I redistribute that? And I'm telling folks all the time, you're either here for racial and social justice, or you're not here yet, period. I believe strongly in relationships and the ways that we see folks, and the products that we get is heavily impacted on our belief system, the choices we make, how we treat people, the results that we get. And we got to remember the technical and relational side of this thing. The 2 ears, 1 mouth thing, got to listen. You can't overtalk, folks. Got to remember to cede power. There's no need to one up. This is not the oppression Olympics. And encouraging our folks that protesting is okay. And I believe that we need to make sure that folks know that folks are allowed to see extraordinary Black humans being, doing, thinking, loving in extraordinarily amazing ways. I don't like to say normalize Blackness because ain't nothing normal about being Black, okay? Period. We believe in Black dreams, Black lives, Black past, present, and future. And every kid, not just Black and brown kids, every kid needs to see that in order to apply that, because they deserve to see themselves liberated, rethinking, organizing, filled with continual joy, growing through the hard things, living in love, and sharing that with others. So, questions and answers, and I'm gonna open it up for questions and answers, but while we're doing that, I would greatly appreciate your feedback. And as always, I do a little giveaway just for you doing that. So I'd appreciate you doing some more feedback, doing a little feedback for me. And I will share my contact information on the next slide. So let's see, how can we get that published book that my students wrote? I will reach out to them. I have copies of it. So if you fill out this evaluation, I will make sure that I get in touch with you and figure out where you want me to mail it to. Let's see. Thank you. Just a celebration of incredible, powerful, and transformative work. Thank you so much. Any other questions? Any other questions? No. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. So I'm gonna put this in the chat. The link, I would appreciate your feedback because I think we all grow when we get feedback. So I appreciate that.
Turquoise, sorry, we just have one more question that just came in. How do you deal with the pushback?
That's such a good question. That's where your collective comes in. I lean heavily on my union a lot, like very, very heavy on my union, because we know we don't teach in the same school, but I believe that that's where that collective comes in again, is you gotta build community and folks who are like-minded. And I don't just mean in your school building, in your local school district. I have folks who I've met on Instagram who will sit on FaceTime or on the phone for hours and just talk because they're facing the same thing. And I need that community so bad, because teaching in the resistance or abolitionist teaching is hard work. And it's not something that's normal at all, because in our world, we are taught to make sure that we keep everybody happy and we don't say anything, and we need to just tight-lipped, right? But that's not, I can't be happy in teaching like that. I just can't. I have to teach with an abolitionist mindset in order for my soul to feel good, in order for me to show up as my whole self in that building every day. And it's hard. I mean, it's very hard. I have been in some schools where the principal has called HR and everything on me, but because I'm a member of my union and they know that I'm a member of my union, then HR will say, sorry, she's not doing anything wrong. The other thing that we do that I think helps with the pushback is our union here in Durham, we encouraged our school board to pass a resolution called free speech resolution, which gives us educators the power to talk about things that we need to teach about, that our kids need and want to learn. And that's a whole nother conversation, organizing to make sure that we have the folks that are anti-racist as school board members, so that our work isn't so hard, so that a resolution like the free speech resolution, or if you saw in 2018 and 19, we had these massive days of action where we shut down school districts all across the state. Having a board, organizing a board so that that stuff isn't so hard, or passing a Black Lives Matter resolution is much easier, but organizing is definitely the thing that gives me joy. Let's see. Hey, Tanisha. Can you share a bit about how you navigate working with colleagues who are not
Turquoise.
with you?
Turquoise.
I think I'm out of time.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I really am, but I just want to make sure we prioritize people's time. Please, everyone, take a screenshot of what Turquoise is sharing. Please follow her on Instagram. It is amazing. I'm a big fan of Turquoise, and she knows this for a fact. So the love is mutual. Thank you so much, everybody. A round of applause, please, for Turquoise. You're the greatest. All right.
Thank you. That was amazing.
Thank y'all.
We're sharing also the link to Turquoise's blog, and yeah, we will see you. We'll see everybody in the next one. Thank you again, Turquoise.